morning, everybody. This is Joseph Wood, live on AAJA Radio for the third time, actually. Catch me 11 to midday on the second and fourth Sunday of the month. Okay, this marks the beginning of our transition from my work into some talking. I just think that we should sign off and finish off with a little bit of talking. So, Chris Kanski, please come behind the decks. I think the music's just stopped actually, but oh yeah, I was on. Thank you so much for dancing so beautifully, Chris. We actually captured quite a few very beautiful moments, especially when we entered that longer segment of the very, very melancholic and noisy music towards the end there. I'm just going to put something on so that we have a little bit of sound behind our talking, but what's going through your body, what's going through your mind right now?
Like my raw thoughts about that are, I think I'm kind of used to this stereotype of like, how would you call it, like artistic or expressive dancers or something like that. I would expect like this stereotype of like artistic or expressive dancers, or however you want to call it, contemporary, I don't know. Like maybe it speaks to the fact that I don't know many of them in person, but I have this idea of kind of when you ask them, like, you know, what's going through their head, what it was like, that you hear something so confident and so ethereal when they talk about it, that it would make me feel like, I don't know, kind of like a lesser person, because I'm like, fuck, like I don't know how to connect to that kind of shit. Which then breeds a kind of resentment, which then breeds a kind of, you know, assumption that they're bullshitting, you know, which I often think people are bullshitting when they make me feel stupid. And I'm not gonna be a hypocrite and then do exactly what I was just talking about. Actually, I want to say that I kind of feel kind of an opposite, or quite a different feeling, which is there's something that does feel really beautiful and does feel like really, you know, genuine about this kind of dance, but more than that, I think more prominently than that, there's kind of a feeling of trying to connect to and trying to represent things that I have not experienced personally. And like one of the things that runs through my head is kind of and it's a really ugly word, but it's pastiche. Like this kind of feeling of like I'm imagining things like like the sounds that you create and play remind me of imagery, right, and actions and settings. There's a lot of settings that I've never been in. Some of them are fantastical. Some of them are more real than that, and kind of pertain to. It goes between. There was a bit that felt like diving deep in the ocean, and there was a bit that felt like witnessing bombs falling. Like imagine myself being next to a transistor radio, seeing everything around me get decimated, and I think that, you know, it's so evident in my mind, like while dancing, that I have not gone through these things, right? And yet I'm dancing like like you've got to fully send it, right? You can't half send it. I've got to do my best to immerse myself in those things, and I think that what makes me do it, like the beautiful part of this, what sounds like a really negative critique, is that everything is, in some respect, for the most part, I think, like connected to things I have gone through personally. If I haven't experienced quite the depths of like immersion and turmoil that I represent in the dance, I have stood on the precipice, you know? If I haven't experienced war, I have been kept up at night by the images and imaginations of it, of people going through it, and my anxieties about going through it myself. And at the end, I had a lot. It was like for the whole, like at last, like I don't know, it felt like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's kind of difficult to keep track of time. What was going through my head a lot was the experiences of someone, a friend of a friend in Berlin, who kind of like lost his mind and really dove very, very, very deep into drug addiction, sex addiction, like a kind of, he sort of, it was pretty fucked up. And it felt like, but he got his life back together, and it felt like, and that felt personal to me too. Again, I haven't lost my mind, and at any point in my life, I haven't completely gone off the rails, but I've stood on the precipice. At the end, I imagined I felt the friends that pulled him out of it, and I thought of my friends, I thought of you. And I really like that. I think it all kind of throws into perspective for me how lucky and fortunate I've been to, at least right now, at least for now, not have gone through so much of what I try to capture in that dance. And it also connects me with what I have gone through, which is significant, you know? Which is significant. Yeah, like, I think that's everything I want to say.
Thank you for your generosity there, Chris. Wow, I'm so amazed by how my music evoked imagery for you and environments that you felt that you could inhabit in your dancing. I'm also really curious about how the music and your engagement with the music through dance evoked memories and moments of your life. You're saying you're connected to your past, everything you've gone through. Could you maybe riff off of that? Is that like basically engaging with everything you've gone through whilst in a dance mode? Is that something you experience regularly when you're dancing? Kind of like dancing and then connecting to everything you've gone through. Yeah, in an integrative way. Like, yeah, is that a regular occurrence for you?
Like it sounds like I'm not answering the question, but I will. Like my preferred mode of expression, or like my most the mode of expression that I think I feel like most comfortable in. Oh no, that's not the word I want to use. The word that feels most connected, the way that feels most connected to myself, is writing. Writing is a medium where I feel like I get to explore nuances. I get to take my time. I get to set the tone, like quite literally set the tone. It feels like I'm really in control to slow things down, to dive as deep or as shallowly as I want to, and all that. With dance, I think what's most common for me in dance is that I'm connecting to something bigger than myself. But in order to do that, I have to go by way of myself, if that makes any sense. Like, in Hanya Yanagihari's dog shit book. Can I swear? Sorry, I can't. All right, sweet. All right. Dog shit book, A Little Life. There's a character who's
That's a dog shit title.
no, the title's good. Yeah, A Little Life is a good title. It's a great. The American cover is amazing too, but like the book sucks. And anyone who thinks otherwise, like I'm willing to have a long discussion about it, because I also at one point thought it was good, and then I saw the light. Anyway, there's a character in that book who's referred to as being a great actor, like because he's got like an emptiness to him, right? Like he can take on any character, and I can see how that can work for. Like I can see how there's precedent for that, right? Like I don't know, Marlon Brando, like Robert De Niro, these actors that that are like pure, as Mark Fisher puts it, pure method. But when I think of acting, and I think that dance is for me very connected to acting. It's connecting with like other people, like especially the musician, more than anything else. What the worlds that they're building and the emotions that they're evoking. But to do that, you have to go by avenue of yourself. You have to. You can't be pure representation of what you're hearing. It's just, it doesn't. That becomes genuine pastiche. Like when you talk about music as connection, part of that connection is hearing someone's expression, reinterpreting it through yourself. Like you matter in that reinterpretation. Your experiences, your past, your how you relate, and then like representing it back to them. You know what I mean? And that's really common for me in dancing. That's really, really common. And even the rest of the audience, like at this night out we went to yesterday, there was it was before you arrived, but there was like I wish I remembered the name of the DJ. It would be an amazing DJ to shout out right now. They were playing really fucking fucked up breakbeats, and I was going really hard, and I was expressing both a lot of my own kind of chaotic emotions, but it was also an assumption of what the crowd goes through. I imagine that everyone in that crowd of themselves goes through chaos, goes through turmoil. I'm trying to take strangers' emotions and express those through my body as well, by way of me, and give it back to them that way. If that makes any sense.
Wow. Can you relate to this experience, Chris, turning up to a club and sort of waddling about like a penguin, or just bouncing up and down, maybe putting up a gun finger or two, and you're sort of an hour in, or maybe even a couple of hours in to your night, and you're realizing like, what the fuck am I even doing? Like, this is a sort of front or a superficial layer that's layered on top of what's really going on inside. And so you have to take a step back and reassess actually where you're at, and then hopefully try to integrate that into the way that you dance. Is that a relatable experience?
What jumps out to me is immediately as more as what I'd probably do in that scenario is I'd probably go for a break, go to a smoking area or go home.
You go outside, and what would you do outside?
Look, like the club, and I love clubbing. Obviously, we met through club music, but I'm really fortunate, I think, that clubbing wasn't my first experience expressing myself through dance. I spent years and years before I got properly into clubbing, going to hardcore and screamo and noise rock and just, and post-punk shows, where, like, and of course, in that music, there's no shortage of pretentiousness, of vapidity, of people who, like, are just fronting while expressing the most surface level of emotions. Sure. But my fucking God, did I experience so much astonishing music that, like, really attempted and used, for me, is like so often succeeded on touching something real, something human, touching something that, like, like, I've got this image in my head, and it's a really fucked up image, but this image of like having, like, your chest open, and like and like if someone touched your heart, like your raw heart, like it would fucking twitch. Yes. You know what I'm saying? That's like when I say touched, I mean like that, like tremors going through you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, like genuinely leaving you feel like like uncomfortable. Like discomforted, like jilted. I don't know what jilted means exactly, but it sounds like the right word.
Sounds like a good word.
And
Jilted.
And I think that spending so many years into that was really, really important to me. So it means that I think a lot of people are looking for that, even if they don't necessarily realize they're looking for that. I think a lot of people are hungry for that. And I don't think the club is a particularly good place to find that a lot of the time. The club, I think, it used to be taken for what it is. What it is primarily is a place to have fun, to socialize, to connect, to nerd out about different sounds, and sometimes to connect to something sublime, and which isn't a million miles off. In fact, it's very, like, connecting to the sublime is not the main goal, but it is something that can happen. I do think that it's not something to expect when you go to the club. I go to the club expecting to have fun, and if I hear, like, fucking, I don't know, like DJ Marcella or like Code 9 or whoever the fuck, like, some weird DJ like plays something genuinely gorgeous, or genuinely, like, even somewhat jilting, then that's gorgeous. But, like, a lot of people in that club aren't going to be there to connect with that. They'll hear it, but, they're vibing, man. They're talking, they're having a groove, they're checking their texts and whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love that. With that said, I do go looking for that sublimity and connection and resonance and jilting, like, more than most do in the club. Mm-hmm. I find that at footwork nights, I find something special. I find something, like, that's more than just like, kind of like easy entertainment. And I like easy entertainment, but I'm always searching for something. I mean, more feels like such a superior word. I don't mean to say that, but something personal, I guess, something human.
Yeah, I hear you. So that's interesting. I think I found a similar level of engagement physically at the couple of. They weren't both. I mean, they were both derivatives of punk. You brought me to a hardcore show at the New Cross Inn with a lot of vegan core bands, right? Metalcore, and then there was one vegan core. And then you brought me to another French screamo show in New River, right?
Yeah, New River Studios.
New River Studios.
Shout out to New Cross Inn.
And I immediately experienced in that environment this intensity of physical engagement, because that kind of music and that kind of culture, it beckons you to engage physically. You can't really be passive in that environment. And I find that similarly in our Chicago footwork nights, you should turn up to one of the afterworks last Thursday of every month at AAJA. That's kind of like how Chris and I met, and it's sort of like a very important community for us. And we Chris and I are both music nerds, right? So we like to like draw parallels between all these different music cultures generally. But Chicago footwork, when you're there, you have to engage physically. And even when you don't feel like it, like the amount of times that I've turned up to an afterworks or like a club night at MOT or Ormside or whatever, whenever 160 Unity are putting on a night, the amount of times I felt like I feel so like nervous and I don't want to put myself out there and make myself vulnerable through dance, and like I'm not feeling it tonight. I'm also very low energy. Everyone's like jumping in and throwing and dropping rounds and battling and shit, and then you're like, it's impossible not to jump in at that point. Even if you like don't necessarily want to, I always end up feeling like, oh fuck, I have to, because it feels a little bit like, sorry, you know me and religious analogies. It's almost a little bit like going to church and then, what the fuck is that ritual called where everyone has to eat circular bread?
Communion?
I guess that's the communion, right? Yeah, you know how like in Catholic churches during the communion, everybody gets into a line and then the priest puts like little wafer, circular piece of bread in your mouth, one after the other, and then you like enter the line, and then you just like don't take it, or like you don't even like, why are you even there? You have to like engage in the ritual. It's almost like a religious duty. So I feel this sense of like religious duty in Chicago footwork to engage, and so there's this like hardcore thing with footwork that I really don't know how to describe. It's the same. It's like a very, very similar feeling to like wanting to jump into the mosh. No?
Yeah, for sure. I think something I love about, like, if you've never been to a hardcore show, so like what I was talking a lot earlier about, like, these really like shows that really like have really touched me, that have kind of like, I had that open ribcage analogy and all that.
I love that.
And I need to specify here, like I talked about that, and I talked about pretentiousness, but then there's also fun. Like, there's also so much of hardcore is about having fun, and I think that fun is a like fucking beautiful thing. Like, if you engage it, if you have this community feeling, if you feel like you feel this connection to the people around you by physically engaging and by seeing people physically engage, that's just like, that is as special to me as seeing like some noise band that gets me like licking the floor and biting strangers' shoes. Like, it's as special to me. It's a very different emotion, but it's as special to me. And that's the emotion that I feel at Chicago Footwork. Like, I'm surrounded by my friends and I love them. I was at my homie Theo's Reality Unfolds festival. Shout out to Real Life Presents. And I used to be a huge mosher. I used to like I used to go like at least once a week and really put my body through the ringer. I still have my moments, but I'm kind of like, I've had some.
This is the first time I probably got to know you when you invited me to the hardcore show at the New Cross Inn. Like, as soon as I entered the New Cross Inn, you were like the only person that was in the, what do you call that? Chasm of energy. Yes, the pit. You were the only person in the pit, just going, like, basically running across the width of New Cross Inn. And I was like, okay, well, I have to join him. So I like put my bag and then like joined you, and then we were the only two people moshing, really, maybe like one other person. And then
And then shit starts to like really rev up, and people are doing spin kicks and spinning their arms and shit like that.
So I wanna shout out this memory I've got like really prominently in my head. Like, so yeah, even though I'm still I'm still going off. I used to be even crazier. I just got some injuries now, some like long-term injuries, and my body can't handle what it used to. But I was at Reality Unfolds, and I was like on the side of the stage, and look, man, if that's a new experience for me, like just watching from the side, and I saw like I saw like the Greek hardcore crew who came down from Greece. They were playing, I forgot which band, what the band name is. I think it's Impunity.
Shout out the
Like
Greek.
shout out the Greek hot band. They go crazy. It was violence, man. I saw Theo, this sweetheart, like my best friend, man. I saw him topless, just like lamping people. Do people say lamping anymore? Just like like just smacking up people, like just full on, like. I saw girls doing these fucking tornado kicks and all that. Like, these young people that are like the next generation of hardcore kids. And even though I wasn't myself involved in that, it was beautiful. I felt so connected to them. Yeah. And that's, I think, the great thing about Chicago Footwork as well, is that if you go to like a Chicago Footwork night and you're not one of the dancers, seeing these rounds, you don't for you and me, like we have to be in there. You and me, like we've got no choice. We're so locked into this that like ego and culture just dictates that we have to dance until we collapse. But I know that for other people, just like seeing that, even when they're not dancing, and I know this from personal experience, it's beautiful. You feel such a connection. You feel such a sense of community and friendship and belonging, and it's just fucking sick. And I think that's why dancing in clubs like feels so important to me, because even though clubs are like great as these places of entertainment and unwinding and like kind of passive engagement, they can be so much more. You know what I'm saying? They can be these places that you go to and you feel like you're part of something, and physical involvement is such a huge part of that. That's why every single DJ and every single band that you see, where you get dancing to it, as long as you're not taking a piss. You know what I mean? Because there's a culture to dance. You know what I mean? You can't. You need to dance like somewhat the correct way. Do you know what I mean? Like there's obviously it's not like it's not mad strict, but you get me. But as long as you're like dancing in a way that they appreciate, they will appreciate it. Dude, I get a guest list to nights out and to shows just because I dance. I'm not doing like, I know I can be a good dancer, but it's not just about that. It's the fact that people want someone there who's going to engage and like get everyone else feeling like they engage. DJ and crowd is beautiful.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Can I shout out a couple of footwork nights as well coming up?
Of course.
If you want to come down and see some of what we're talking about, we got EYG Gets to Work, Avalon Cafe on 20th of June. It's Avalon Cafe, 20th of June. And what's this next one we got coming up? We've got Ulna 160 at the George Tavern on 14th of June. That's a George Tavern on 14th of June. Come down to come see some rounds.
Yes.
And if you don't feel a esoteric connection to your community that changes your life, then your money back.
Yeah. If you don't come down, then honestly, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, what's up, man? What's up, man? Like, what's up? You know what I'm saying?
So, so we should probably wrap up. But I actually wanted to go off what you said about just watching. Maybe this is my own egotistical thing that I need to get over. But, I mean, personally, whenever I've been in a situation, for example, when I was at the MOT Nyega night couple weekends back. Yeah. No, last week. That was a couple weekends back. There was one moment where the vibe started to get like very South African, and there was some amapiano going, and there was an MC, and there was like a little circle, and people started to really pop their booties, if you know what I'm saying. And then there was this whole thing where MC was orchestrating everybody on the dance floor to get low and like then get back up and shit like that. And then there was this circle where people kind of like jumping in and doing whatever, but I could tell they were kind of part of like this, their own little crew or like whatever the fuck. And in that moment, yes, it was cool. I kind of I liked it, but this is me revealing like a dark thought. But like I felt weirdly like isolated. I felt isolated because there's this circle, people kind of like jumping and doing whatever, and I was just like onlooking, and people had their phones out and were filming what was going on. So it was kind of like this fortress of like iPhones, you know? There was like this fortress of iPhones, and in the fortress you only had like the select few that were allowed to sort of jump in and do whatever. Now, having said that, I realise that's kind of like what happens when the after works crew goes and dances at Homeside and MOT and wherever. There is a similar thing that happens where everyone's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And then
Anyone
people
listening and not watching the playback, he had his phone out just then.
Oh yeah, that wouldn't make sense if you just listened. But so maybe I'm like super hypocritical, but I think there's like, okay, actually I know if I was at one of the Chicago footwork nights and I didn't know how to Chicago footwork at all, no, not even a single move, and people were like doing shit, I don't know how I would feel. I feel like I would feel left out, actually. But at the same time, I'd be like, shit, I need to like know moves so that I can jump in and do this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, maybe you'd feel left out, maybe. But I think more than anything, and knowing you would feel inspired. That would be a feeling of being left out that would fire you up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know that about you for sure. I think that though.
I found the get low and then
Yeah.
I found that a bit corny.
Yeah, it's a bit corny, but you know, fuck, man, you got to get people engaged. You know what I mean? Like, MC's got a difficult job.
I know why. Sorry. It's because everybody was doing it, and there was no individuality about that. Get low. And I think with Chicago footwear, there's this like element of expressing your individuality. That is a very, 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 very big part of it.
I get that. No, I get that. Like, yeah. No, I totally understand that. I'm over the like the whole crowd getting low kind of thing. Slipknot do that. I'm not into Slipknot. You know what I'm saying? I prefer the individuality, like you said. You know, like seeing Jesus, what was a band called? I forgot their name now. But you know, I was at this hardcore show like a couple of months ago, and they said like, I want to see your best moves. And that's not a call for everyone to like do the same thing. You know, that's the call for like Josie, shout out to Josie, to like throw her like signature tornado kick that just looks hard as nails and like make it so good that I'm here 2 months later on a radio show talking about it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I fuck with that. I want to say about the phones as well. Look, like, you know, no, he's got his phone out again. Like, look, no culture's perfect, right? And I think that this is something I can complain about, and I don't want to like, I don't want to let it like take up too much of I don't want to let it like take up too much of my perspective about the modern day. But I hate phones on the dance floor. Period. Like the only thing they're good for is a flashlight in a dark club when you want to highlight someone's dancing.
Camcorders in the dance club is fine.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. Shout out to camcorders. Shout out to Miyamoto. You know, with her camcorder. That's cool as fuck. And you know, like, bruv, I don't need to explain the difference. You can feel the difference. You can feel the fucking difference. You know what I mean? Like the big difference is that Amira comes with like an intent to record. And the thing with phones, people take their phones out. I think what I like about Chicago footwork, I suppose, is a lot of the people with the phones out are my friends, and I know that they're going to upload it. You know, we got our folders where we upload this stuff. We upload them to like our Instagram pages and all that kind of shit. But so many people take their phones out.
It's part of the hustle.
Sure. and as part of the community, I'm not the biggest fan, but like it's cool. I've looked at some videos of myself, and I'm like, I'm so glad someone caught that. At the same time, though, phones so much are an anxiety response. Like Suzanne Sontag said this, that like on photography is one thing I actually remembered from a fucking book, which is difficult as fuck to read, is that like a camera can be a way of like doing a buffer between you and this event that gives you like a feeling of anxiety. And like phones, I always feel it when people like, I don't feel it, but if someone comes with a camcorder, that's cool as fuck. Like that means you're coming with intent. If you're coming with if you're taking your phone out and you're filming and you've got no connection to the people that you're filming and you're just like staring through this phone screen the entire time, it's to combat that feeling of discomfort. It's to combat that feeling of like awkwardness, because you're not the one dancing and all that. Feel awkward. That's my advice to people. Feel awkward.
Waddle about like a penguin if you have to. It's okay.
Yeah, just like, like whatever feelings you get, let them exist. It's so much better for everyone involved than creating this buffer between you and the experience. Yeah, I guess that's. I think there was one more thing I wanted to say, and I'm gonna really get really pissed off. I forgot about it, but yeah. Can I do a shout out before we wrap up? One more. Yeah. I just want to shout out Punks for Palestine. Coming up on this next bank holiday, whatever Monday that is. What is that? That's the 26th, Monday 26th. Punks for Palestine happening in New Cross Inn. All proceeds going to medical aid for Palestine and the Palestine Defense Fund. And it's going to be a whole day of hardcore and hip hop and grime and screamo. Total mixed bill. It's an incredible lineup. Tickets from £13. Come down and see some shit that you would never have seen otherwise. It's going to be really, really, really fucking cool.
I can attest to that. I've never went to see those bands live, but I think I've seen videos of the main band playing. Okay. So this has been Joseph Wood with Chris Kanski. Catch me, hopefully us, Chris. To be honest with you, I feel like at this point we might as well just do the radio show together. If you can, just let me know your availability and what you can do. No pressure if not. And so catch us the second and fourth Sunday of the month, 11 to midday. You're likely to see the first 10 to 15 minutes just me setting up and panicking about starting the show. But it's cool.
Yeah, you say 11 a.m., but you mean like 11:10, 11:15.
Yeah. It's all good. I work here. So, anyways, I love you all. Have a really, really beautiful day. Remember, stay present. And, yes, look around you. Appreciate the beauty in your environment. And breathe.
And put every single moment on Instagram as often as you can. Everyone cares about your stories. 20 a day minimum.